Today, you will hear an amazing story about a woman who experienced clinical death and came back to share a message that could change your life. What she saw and learned about the future of technology and its effect on humanity shocked her deeply. This story is not just a warning, it is a key to understanding what truly lies ahead for us. Discover her incredible journey beyond life, but make sure to watch until the very end. The most important message is waiting there. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. This helps us share more stories with you. Your attention could change not only your life, but also the lives of others searching for answers. Maria had always been the heart of her family. She spent her days in a warm and cozy home, filled with memories, the smell of freshly brewed tea, and the sounds of old songs. She cherished every moment of her life, whether it was playing with her grandchildren or enjoying a quiet evening with a book by the fireplace. Technology was never a big part of her world, and she often joked that she didn't understand why people replaced real conversations with screens. But one day, her peaceful life came to an abrupt stop. On a sunny afternoon, while Maria was watering flowers in her garden, she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her chest. At first, she thought it was just tiredness, but the pain grew stronger, turning into a burning sensation, as if her heart was being squeezed by an invisible hand. Her breathing became harder, and her legs gave way. She fell to the ground, feeling like the earth had disappeared beneath her. Her family immediately called for an ambulance. The voices of her loved ones, full of fear, sounded far away, like they were behind a thick fog. "Mom, stay with us," she heard, but she couldn't answer. The world around her started fading, sounds became quieter, and her vision slowly dimmed. The last thing she remembered was the bright light of a lamp above her and the doctor's voice saying, "We're losing her." Maria felt herself leaving her body. It was like floating upward, light as a feather, as if she had become weightless. At first, she saw herself from above, her lifeless body surrounded by doctors working desperately to bring her back. Their hands moved quickly, their faces were focused and tense. Her daughter stood nearby, covering her mouth with her hands to hold back a scream. At first, this sight frightened Maria, but soon the fear disappeared. She felt a deep sense of peace instead. There was no more pain, no heaviness in her chest. She seemed to float higher, feeling a freedom she had never known before. A warm light started to surround her, coming from a distant point that grew brighter with each moment. The light was gentle and inviting, as if it were calling her. In that moment, Maria realized she had crossed into a completely different world, one she had never truly thought about before. Everything that had happened before felt so far away and unimportant. Her incredible journey had begun. As her consciousness completely separated from her body, Maria found herself in a place of incredible beauty. It wasn't like anything she had ever seen before. Everything around her was glowing with a soft, golden light. This light didn't blind her but embraced her, reaching deep into her soul. It felt like this light was pure love, endless and perfect, a love she had never experienced on earth. She felt all her fears, worries, and pain fade away. It was a feeling of total peace, as if every burden of her life had dissolved, leaving only lightness and calm. Suddenly, a figure surrounded by the light appeared before her. She couldn't see its face clearly, but deep inside, she immediately understood who it was. Her heart filled with certainty, it was Jesus. He didn't speak aloud, but she could hear his voice in her heart. The voice was warm and strong, and it brought her comfort and peace. "Don't be afraid," she heard, and this made her feel even calmer. Jesus reached out his hand to her, and she felt herself surrounded by something so powerful and kind that words couldn't describe it. "You must see this," he said. And in the next moment, everything around her changed. She was now surrounded by scenes from her own life, moments of happiness, days spent laughing with her children, but also moments of pain and regret. Yet, in the light, even her mistakes didn't bring shame. They only brought understanding and acceptance. Then Jesus guided her further. It wasn't like walking or flying. It felt more like being instantly moved from one place to another. They arrived in a space where time didn't exist. Maria began to see visions she didn't understand at first. She saw people surrounded by strange devices, glowing screens holding their attention, and networks connecting everyone like a giant web. Jesus explained to her that she was seeing the future. In this future, the technology that humanity was so proud of would be used to deceive them. They believe this is the way to progress, his voice said, but this technology will lead them away from the truth. People will look for answers in machines, but they will find only emptiness. With every word, Maria's heart grew heavier. She saw people so blinded by comfort that they couldn't see the truth anymore. They worshipped what they had created with their own hands, forgetting who had created them. The light around Jesus grew brighter, as if trying to comfort her. "You must return and tell them," his voice said. "They need to know." Maria stood beside Jesus as the space around them changed again. The bright light was replaced by darkness, but it wasn't frightening. Instead, it felt like a warning of something huge and unavoidable. She saw a city of the future, shining with advanced technology. Tall glass buildings sparkled in the sunlight, and silent, driverless vehicles floated through the air. People walked through the streets with smiles on their faces. They wore devices implanted in their bodies, which seemed to make their lives easier. These devices helped them communicate, manage daily tasks, and even monitor their health. Artificial intelligence controlled everything: transportation, services, and even personal needs. At first glance, it looked like a dream world, safe, convenient, and perfect. But Maria could feel that something was wrong. She noticed large screens placed all over the city. These screens displayed images that captured everyone's attention. People stopped to watch, but their faces looked empty. There was no joy or thought in their eyes. They moved like puppets, controlled by an unseen force. "They think they control technology," a voice said to Maria, "but technology controls them." Maria saw how these devices, which people used so eagerly, collected every detail about their lives, their movements, their words, even their thoughts. Artificial intelligence knew everything about them, their fears, desires, and weaknesses. And this information was being used to control them. She noticed that many people lived in total isolation without even realizing it. Instead of talking to each other, they were lost in their screens. Families sat at the same table but didn't speak, each focused on their own device. Even young children were completely absorbed in virtual games. Their eyes glowed with excitement, but Maria could see that this excitement was empty. The vision changed again. Maria now saw a new kind of world. It was bright, colorful, and seemed perfect at first glance. This was a virtual reality. People lived in this artificial world as if it were real. They built their dream homes, created incredible adventures, and even imagined families. Everyone looked happy, but Maria noticed something strange. This happiness was shallow, not real. She saw one person, and his eyes glowed with an unnatural light. His gaze didn't reflect any inner thoughts or feelings. It was the look of someone completely consumed by an illusion. Maria then saw the real world behind this colorful virtual facade. People wearing virtual reality headsets sat in dark rooms. Their bodies looked weak, their skin pale, and their movements slow, like puppets. They were alive, but their minds were trapped in these illusions. They stopped eating, drinking, or caring for their loved ones. They were completely lost in a world created to keep them there. Maria felt a deep sadness as she realized most of these people didn't even know they were no longer living real lives. For them, reality had been replaced by an illusion. Even children were caught in this artificial world. She saw a young boy sitting in a room with a device on his head. His face showed excitement, but Maria knew it was an excitement born from emptiness. His real childhood, full of joy and wonder, was replaced by this fake world. A voice spoke in her heart, "They no longer see the truth. This world was created to distract them. Every moment they spend here takes them further from reality and further from me." The visions continued, showing Maria the dangers of technology and the chains it placed on people. These images stayed in her heart as she prepared to return to her body with a mission, to warn humanity before it was too late. Maria found herself in yet another vision. This time, it was so vivid that she felt a chill run through her soul. She saw people standing in long lines, calm and even joyful, as if they were about to receive something important. Small devices, tiny chips, were being placed on their hands or foreheads. These chips were said to offer safety, convenience, and access to all necessary services. The devices were no larger than a grain of rice, but they held immense power. They replaced documents, bank cards, keys, and even medical records. People embraced this technology, believing it was the ultimate solution to chaos and disorder. They willingly accepted it, convinced that it was their path to a better life. But then Maria saw what was truly happening. These devices began to glow as if activated by an invisible system. Each person with a chip was suddenly connected to a massive network that controlled their actions. It was like invisible chains binding their will. They could no longer make their own decisions. A voice from the network whispered to them what to do, what to think, and what to believe. Maria heard a voice that said, "This is the mark spoken of in the scriptures." They accept it, thinking it will bring them good, but it only brings slavery. The one who controls this system will control their souls. She saw a figure standing at the head of this system. His face was hidden in shadows, but Maria felt a coldness emanating from him. This was the one the scriptures referred to as the beast. He controlled the network and was the source of all the deception. People unknowingly worshipped him, depending entirely on the system for their survival. Without the chip, they could not buy food, receive medical care, or even leave their homes. This total control was disguised as safety. Maria's heart broke as she watched people willingly submit to this system. Most didn't even question it. "If it makes my life easier, why not?" they said. But Maria saw the darkness behind this convenience. She also saw those who refused the devices. These people lived on the outskirts of society, facing hardships and persecution. They couldn't buy or sell, and they were labeled as outcasts. But their faces shone with faith and hope. They had chosen truth, even knowing it would bring them suffering. A voice spoke again in her heart, "Warn them. This mark is a trap. It will lead to the loss of their souls if they do not realize what is happening." Maria felt overwhelming sorrow but also a strong sense of determination. She knew she had to return and warn people about what she had seen. Her mission was clear, to tell the world that safety and comfort were not worth the price of their souls. Maria felt the visions begin to fade. The incredible scenes she had witnessed slowly disappeared, dissolving into the air. She felt a strange heaviness, as if her soul was being gently but firmly pulled back. She turned to look once more at the light that had surrounded her in this spiritual realm and at Jesus, whose presence had given her peace and strength. His eyes were filled with love, but also a sense of urgency. She heard his voice, steady and full of purpose, "You must return. They need to know the truth." Her consciousness began to fall rapidly, and she felt her soul re-enter her body. The process wasn't easy. She was surrounded by sensations of heaviness and pain, as if she were putting on a body that was too small and tight. Suddenly, she gasped, taking in air for the first time in what felt like forever. Her eyes opened, and she saw the bright lights of the hospital room. Doctors stood over her, stunned by her sudden return. They could hardly believe she was alive. "It's a miracle," whispered one of the nurses. But Maria knew it was more than just a miracle. She had been sent back with a purpose. Her return wasn't just a second chance at life, it was a mission. In the hours after her return, Maria felt overwhelmed. She saw the doctors speaking to her family, explaining that her heart had stopped but had miraculously started beating again. Her daughter wept as she hugged her, and her grandchildren were afraid to even touch her, as if not believing she was really back. But Maria knew her return was no accident. She had been given a message that everyone needed to hear. As she regained her strength, Maria began to share her story with her family. They listened in disbelief, but the determination in her eyes and the conviction in her voice left them speechless. Her voice trembled as she described the visions of the future, Jesus' warnings, and how technology could become a trap for the soul. "These are not just conveniences," she said, her voice gaining strength. "These are chains we willingly put on ourselves. But there is hope. We must remember who we are. We are not machines. We are children of God." Maria felt a deep sense of responsibility in her heart. She didn't know how people would react to her words, but she understood she could not remain silent. The message burned in her soul, and she knew she had to share it with everyone who was willing to listen. "Do not believe the false promises that technology makes," she urged. "Stay on the side of truth. Remember, freedom does not come from devices but from your connection to the Creator. Truth is the light that cannot be extinguished as long as you hold it in your heart." Every word she spoke was filled with her faith and love for humanity. She knew the path ahead would not be easy, but the light she had seen beyond life stayed with her forever. That light became her guide, a reminder that love and truth are stronger than any darkness. Now, she was ready to share that light with the world, step by step, bringing hope back to humanity. If this story inspired you and you want to hear more like it, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. This will help us share more important messages with others. Share this video with those who are searching for the truth. Together, we can keep the light of truth shining in this changing world.